Well, today we are doing Shalom in the Home with Miriam. This is the fourth Wednesday discipleship class in the month of October, and we are in the year of 5783, right, Miriam?
Right. We just got there.
We
Woohoo.
just got there. We're
There.
coming back around the mountain again. I
Right.
love
Right.
it. I love it. And today, we're doing a bit of a recording because you were not actively present in the live class because you are visiting
A
your daughter.
daughter, a daughter and my grandchildren, and then my sister who's coming from another state and haven't seen her in 3 years. So it just happened to befall on the Wednesday I'll be gone. So we're going to pre-record this. And I'm so grateful for your help and for everybody listening, that they are as blessed as we were last time. And I am blessed to be able to, for this opportunity. What a joy.
What a joy, what a joy. And you said that when you go down there to visit with your daughter, you're going to be able to take Shabbat with you, right?
Right, right. Sometimes we say little things and we think, oh, that's not nothing. And I remember last time Jen Doobie saying, wow, I love that saying. I take Shabbat with me wherever I go.
Mm.
And I think that's something, when we go into someone else's home. Now, we would expect with our children that they would be hopefully following this, or but we know in reality a lot of our family members aren't and following, as far as I'm saying, even doing honoring the Sabbath and keeping it holy and doing a Erev Shabbat dinner. And so I did ask my family, can I do this on Friday night? Because, as I said, I take Shabbat with me wherever I go. And they said yes.
Oh,
So
that's so
we've
exciting.
so we planned our menu already, and we're going to make bread on Friday. And so what a joy. Who doesn't want that with their family? And hopefully all goes well, which I believe it will. And I'm honoring my creator in the very best way that I can.
That's good. You know, when we do Shabbat in other people's presence, they get part of our blessing.
Yes,
They get the
yes.
fragrance. They get the fragrance of our blessing. They get the residue of our blessing. And you're going to be doing Shabbat in their home, so you're going to be bringing shalom to their
Mm-hmm.
home. And who is not blessed by having
Mm-hmm.
shalom in their home?
Right. And so many people we have asked in our congregation over many, many years, how many of you got the blessing as a child? How many did your mother or your father put their hands on your head and give you a blessing? And so many said they never got it. I didn't get it growing up. My parents loved me. They did the very best they could do, and I'm sure we can say that for all our parents. They don't do what they cannot do what they've not been taught,
Right.
and they do the very best they can. But to have those positive things saying over you, that's what's
Yeah.
really important, because all of us can remember little things that either a sister, a mother, a father, a husband, a brother, some teacher in school would say something very, very negative. And you know what? We're going to remember that, aren't we? And that's so sad, because that is not who we are. And so,
No.
as I said last week, is the Proverbs 31 woman. The words of kindness are on her lips. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the Ezer Kegnedo. Now, I have also told people there is this wonderful, wonderful book by the book is Dandelion, and it's about a husband and wife. And I think Crystal has the book right there.
Right here.
And it's so wonderful. You see that, everybody? A Warrior Beside Him by Donna Taylor.
Now, what exactly is defined by Ezra Kegnedo? What does that
O
word exactly mean?
okay. Well, Ezer means a helper, and, God is our Ezer, isn't he? He is our helper. He is going to fight for us. He's going to be our protector, and, and then he had left us what? The Comforter, the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh. But it goes so much further because sometimes it's been taught in many religious circles that the husband is dominant over the wife. And unfortunately, that that S word, submission, has been taken so wrong. And so sometimes as women, we can either rebel against it and say, no, I am not going to do that. And I'm going to be in control, which doesn't work either, does it? Or we can become so quiet. Yes, 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 I'll do this. And then what do we become? We become like a doormat. And then sometimes we can be, can I say the word passive aggressive? We can do little things, right? We can be manipulative, right? In so many ways. But um, the wife is also supposed to defend her husband. She's supposed to be right at his side. Now, when I was reading the Torah portion and we were reading it as we were beginning the book of Bereshit, Genesis again, we talk about from Adam, and the male, Ish in Hebrew, he needed a helpmate. And he didn't take it from his head. We've heard that it be above him, or from his feet, that it would be trampled and below him, but he took it right from his side. And from his side, and from what? Equal, that they were to be equal and they were to support one another. And where one was lacking, the other one would fill. And how wonderful is that? I'm sure in all of your households, one does better at finances or bookkeeping or budgeting. And we have to be open enough to let that person do it. Now, I'm speaking a lot today when you are in a marriage situation, but you know what? If you're not in a marriage situation right now and you are single, you are a widow, or you're also in a divorce situation, this is something that is such good training for anybody to teach your children, or possibly you will have the blessing of being able uh, to find that mate again. And so, protector, defender, it's almost like being a warrior. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
Um, right beside us, right beside us. So, Canendo is like a, a, a helper right beside me. Skip Moen has written a lot on this also. He has some wonderful, wonderful books. And
One is called Guardian Angel, right?
Guardian Angel. Mm-hmm.
I have that one too.
Yes,
You
yes.
so
Eh,
Ezra Kenegdo being a warrior princess, can I just stop you right quick for a question
sure.
and ask, I don't know if you're going to address this, but does that is that part of the reason why maybe Eve was attacked before Adam because she was the fortress? She was the guard around
Mm,
her home?
mm.
Have you ever heard that?
No, but that sounds really good, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Because
so like when the enemy wants to attack a place, what does he have to
mhm,
do? He has to
mhm.
take down the walls first. And
Right.
are we not the keepers of the home and the home have walls?
Yes, yes, and you know what? In the, Hebraic ceremony of the wedding, what does the wife do, the bride? She circles her husband 7 times.
So she's the
She's
so does that brings me back to that scripture about the hedge of protection.
Yes, yes, and she's also marking her territory.
Oh, okay.
He is
Okay.
mine, and when we drink from the cup, let no one, and when they stomp on the cup, and, a lot of, different, meanings, they say, well, this is for the destruction of the temple and all that, and also from, now we're breaking the virginity because the one, the red, because how they would put the bed sheets out years ago when they got
Yeah.
married and have the bride price. But it's also saying no one is going to drink from this cup
Ever
ever
again.
again. And so, isn't that beautiful? There's so much in here. But when you can have respect for one another,
Mm,
that is so important because, sometimes we if we marry a partner and that person could be very phlegmatic and so is kind of a procrastinator and doesn't get things done fast enough, maybe for the woman, and maybe is not helpful. So either the woman maybe sometimes will take control and she'll just jump right in there and do that. And some husbands will say, what? Wow, you want to go do it? Go ahead. And so then what happens? What happens to that? Then there's resentment. And she's,
mhm.
I've got to do it all. Or when things happen and the children, when there's children, they'll go to the mother and never go to the father because they can sense the mother is ruling the roost. Now we know that the woman sets the mood, but it should be equally shared by husband and wife.
So how does a woman i- um who who has a husband who is not as proactive as maybe they would like, how does she build that up? How does she build peace in her home in that situation?
So the first thing that doesn't work is nagging or
That's,
complaining.
doesn't
And
it say like in Proverbs it's a dripping
yes,
faucet,
a
right?
dripping faucet. And uh, there's going to be frustration. The words "you never" or "you
Mhm.
always do it this way," wrong, poor choice of words. Terrible. But first of all, prayer, prayer, pray, pray, pray. Don't ever embarrass your husband in front of the children or in front of anybody else. You pray that he has a listening ear. And then after it, I would sit down nicely. It almost sounds at first that I thought when I read things, it was like a little manipulation when we're saying it. But we're saying, gosh, you do so well at this. I really need your help. Could you do this for me this week? Or how can I help you? Do I need to help you how can I make it easier for you that we can work as a team?
Sounds like to me you're building him up.
Right,
So
right.
that kind of gives a new meaning to a wise woman builds her
Bills,
house
yes.
by
Very,
building him up.
very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Find the attractive and work on that. As a school teacher, they said so many times, write down or just jot down how many times a child that is gets in trouble that you're talking negative. Sit down, don't do this. You're talking, you don't act that way. Da 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 da. How many times are you going to praise that child? So it's the same. Find something you can praise and be on that level. Is this going to be instant sometimes? No, it's not going to be. But I'll tell you, I have done it in the past. Nagging doesn't work or finding fault because what does it do? Like you said, rather than build up, what does it do? It tears down.
And that
It,
goes right into that next verse that but a foolish woman tears it down with her own hands,
with her
right?
own hands. Right.
With her own hands. When I was in the
Right.
military, I had to teach a program about military resiliency. And one of the things that they told us or taught us how to do was to hunt the good stuff. So I
Mm,
always go tell people, okay, where's the good stuff? We got to hunt the good stuff. Sometimes
mm,
it's not obvious. Sometimes we got to hunt the good stuff where we're at. But when we go back to this Ezra Kenegdo, this warrior princess picture of a bride and how she's building her house up by building up her husband is kind of like a, a commander who's building up his army. He's cheering them up because they're not going to fight a good fight if they're defeated before they even go into the battlefield.
right.
How
Ex
is it as an Ezra Kenegdo, how are we sending our husbands out into the world?
right. Right.
Are we building them up before they go? Are we equipping them?
Right. Right. So, I mean, you know, we say, our egos and, a man's ego, uh, if the ego is so strong, we say edging God out.
Mm,
But on the other hand, we can really tear down a man's ego very, very easily because he still should be the head of the household, but in sharing things equally. But before he leaves in the morning to, maybe you don't get to see him or vice versa. Uh, the husband doesn't get to see the wife, or even if we're talking about children, tell them you love them. Pray for them when they go out, that they would have a good day, a day of success, a day of peace. May they have no trouble on the road and build them up, like you said. And I know that's one of the, as it's just now 6 months that my husband has passed away. And every time I was going home on the road, after I would be coming home in the dark. He would say, "Will you call me?" And then he would be praying for me that I'd not even have a flat tire.
mhm,
And so what was he doing? He was asking protection for me.
mhm,
And that's what we need. We need to pray that. And, you know, in all cases, um, either a man or woman, either they were built up very much. If a man was not built up by their mother or father, it's really important that the wife does that. Or what are
mhm,
they holding on to? What are they holding on? Insecurities, great insecurities.
mhm,
I know women will tell me when they have a husband that is going to pray with them, put their arm around them, comfort them, and listen to them, not just find it that they're already ready to give an explanation like Adam did. He had the excuse, right? The wife you gave me. He was right there, right
yeah,
there. But how important is that? Is to build one another up. That's what
mhm,
friendships, anything. And so, like we said, and in your home, we talked about last week, and I can't believe as I was in San Antonio last week for a few days, blessed to go to Sakot, and then just talking with a lot of my adopted daughters all over, how much turmoil has come in the home with letting other members of the family in, or just people that you're going to let in your household. Most of the time, they're not going to do things the way you do.
that's right.
And if they're going to have to come in for a while, it's going to disrupt your regular schedule.
Yeah,
And if you wait on them hand and foot and they don't take care of it, what's going to happen?
yeah.
There's going to be resentment.
I
It's going to
actually
show
have
up.
I have that situation now. I mean, I have a daughter and her husband who are here visiting from Germany, and they have a best friend. Her husband has a best friend, and he wanted to come and spend some time with his best
Mhm.
friend, and so he came into the house. And I have to tell you, and he stayed for a few days. I want to be that. I want to be hospitable.
Right.
We need to be hospitable, and I definitely need. I would not. um, not be hospitable to my very own children, but even that can be challenging from time to time. But she
Right.
brought him in. The thing that put me in an awkward situation was my daughter and her husband left, and they left his friend at my house here. My husband's
Mm,
not here.
mm,
And that's a
mm.
compromising situation. So I had to get
Right.
in the car and leave
Mm,
because I'm not going to be in the same house as another young man when my husband or there's not somebody else here.
right.
So I had to leave because they didn't understand that value and I had allowed that in my home. And that and even practicing hospitality when we allow things in our home, don't we have to be the Ezra Kegnedo that guards our home from even those situations?
You said the right word, guard, because you know what? Now, if you would do it again, you would probably be able to say, whoever his name is, I'm sorry. Right now, this is my home, and I cannot have you in this house right now. You're going to have to leave right now.
Yeah.
However you say that, because it's your house.
Yeah,
And it
I
shouldn't,
shouldn't have been the one leaving.
right. You shouldn't been the one
Yeah,
leaving.
I should not have been I should have said I known
Right.
that my daughter and her husband were going to leave, I would have told my daughter, you know our rules. You need to
Right.
take your guest with you
You need to catch
because
with you or tell
yeah,
him to go out somewhere for the time being because
yeah.
this is the rules of our home.
And
Yes,
that's but we do see compromising situations sneak in to our homes from all different places. All
because
different places.
because we're taught sometimes being hospitable is getting to the point that, like you said, we let our own guard down and we let our own values down because we don't want to upset our children. We want them so much to see the love of the Lord in us.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is, and we'll think, "Oh, we're gonna have a conflict now." And it's really it's not our doing, but it becomes stress in the home. And so
Yeah.
really, the word for man is ish. Let's look at the word self-ish.
Mm.
So are we focusing on self and what we want, or are we focusing on what God desires and his rules? And you were not doing anything wrong to have
Mhm.
said, "So what did you do?" And what was it? It was on a day that was really preparation day that you were needing to get ready.
Yeah.
So, I'm praying when I go on and when it's preparation day that all these different things doesn't get in the way because you know what? There's always the one that wants to destroy and kill and upset. Now, he doesn't rule over us, but he will try every way to disrupt, and we have to stay strong. But I have learned so much because in the very beginning of our marriage, believe it or not, Charles and I would say ugly things sometimes to each other, or he'd slam out the door, and I wanted to settle it right then. I was the one, we got to fix it right now. He had to have time to think and
Mm.
walk. But sometimes when we say something to our mate or to our children, wow, we can say ugly things. And then how do we take that back? How do we take that back? So it's so much better not to do that, to walk away, to go into another room and to not let that happen. Over the years we learned we can't do that to each other. When I'm hurting that husband, that wife, I'm hurting my other self. I'm hurting myself and I'm hurting God's creation. And as we said last time, find find a mentor, find a woman that you can go to or your friends that you can trust and say, "Help me with this." There isn't one of us who's not had the experience of sometimes having difficulty of someone in our home. So set limits. Set limits. You can be here for or this long, or this is what we do from Friday night to Sat. Sometimes children, well, will you do this on Shabbat with me? When knowing well you honor the Shabbat. Well, can't you do it another day? Well, and then you feel bad not helping him. You want to love, but you know what? That's not being mean. You are setting that perimeter. But we have a tendency to want to go overboard to please. But let's be really careful with that. Really careful with that.
Yeah, because it seems like that um we can compromise on our boundaries in the name of
Yes,
hospitality.
right.
It kind of like we can compromise. Um, we can sometimes hide gossip under
Mhm.
the veil of prayer,
Prayer. Right. Right.
right? We can
Right.
sometimes
Oh, I'm so
hide,
concerned about this person. Can you
yeah,
know? Mhm.
and even that happens that the enemy can disguise himself in many different ways. He doesn't necessarily um want to ruin our day if he can just inch out
Right.
a little bit of compromise.
Right.
If he can
Right.
just squeeze out a little, we was in another class today talking about the spirit of Python, about the
Mhm.
spirit of squeezing,
Mhm.
right? And that's what he's doing. He's trying to get that Ezer Kegnedo to let down her guard, to compromise just a little bit, to
Right.
make that little hedge just a
Mhm.
little thinner in one spot or another so that he can
Right.
breach the home
And also put doubt within us. Doubt and lack of trust.
or lack of anything,
Anything.
doubt, lack of confidence,
Right.
inferiority
Right.
complex,
Right. Not good
insecurity.
enough. Right. Right.
It just
Right.
wherever he can go just to squeeze out that. So we know that there's also women out there who don't have husbands, but they still have
Right.
a home, right?
Right. They still have a home or a workplace, and so, their self-esteem has to be built up also. And they can have conflict in their home regardless if there's, some tell me, that have either lost their mate or, they've been divorced and they said, I've been single for so long. I don't know if I could be married again because I'm pretty much set in my ways. So when you are married, it is the mixing of two. It is the
Yeah.
mix. And that Ezra is supposed to be right next, defending that husband, defending that wife, and just being right next to them and saying, I am wanting the very, very best for you. And you know what? When you do that, you will reap so much, so much, so much.
So can I ask you in reference to the word Ezra Kenegdo, is that related specifically to a wife, or is that having to do with being a warrior of God? What
That's,
exactly does those words stand for?
yeah. Well, I said in the beginning, God is an Ezer. He is a helper. So he is our protector. But I think it's pretty much focusing on the woman in this role
Hmm.
that and how and there will be theologians that would argue with this and taught in religious circles. No, that husband has got to be that head and you do whatever he says and
Hmm.
totally be submissive. And I think any woman is submissive to a husband that treats her the right way.
Yeah.
But it's equal because, also, what are our wants,
Mhm.
but what are our needs? What are our needs?
But we can be submissive to a husband and still be strong and
Yes,
powerful. I think the word
powerful.
submissive has gotten so
Yes,
misconstrued and thrown out of place. Submissive to me, when I understand it, because that's a dirty word in a
right,
lot of realms. It's
right.
like, oh, you gotta
Whoa.
submit.
Yeah,
But what it means is that when two people are sitting in a car, there can only be one person that's holding the steering wheel.
steering wheel.
You can both be going in the same place. You can both be
Mhm,
navigating the same road. You can both
mhm.
be sitting in the front seat. But when it comes right down to, hey, we need to turn left or right, that's a communication thing, but only one can actually turn the wheel.
Right. Right.
And and sometimes as women, if he chooses to turn left when he was supposed to turn right, we got to go along for the ride,
Right.
you know. And sometimes he wants to listen and say we're supposed to turn left. That's okay. But
And I think
being submissive does not mean being inferior.
no, does not mean, and sometimes, we have to let people fail too, don't we?
Yes.
And that's really hard.
Oh man, especially when the person that fails eh,
Mhm.
is our husbands and we're the
Right.
ones that have to live with the consequences.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's the toughest one right
That's
there.
one of the toughest ones, isn't it? Now, the best thing, any major decision, I would say, do it together, because if you don't, oh, wow, that really leads to mistrust. Like if a husband comes home with a brand new
Mhm.
car, never discusses it with the wife,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Or made a major decision, and I've just done this. She feels left out, or the other way around. I'm going to make a major decision without you. You are to be one, and you want the best for each other. And so that produces a really negative consequences, and saying, you don't cherish me enough to value my opinion.
And but at the same time when that happens, that does not give us the right to be the foolish women that tears down our house with our
No,
own hands. We
no.
still have to we still have to live with those consequences and still build him up. And that's where I think I read a book. I'm not promoting it. I don't know if I should or not, but it's called The Power of a Praying Wife. And it just comes
Oh,
just the
Stormy,
title.
it's
Yes.
by I've read, yes.
And
I love that book
just the power
of
of
the
being able
prayer.
to pray for
Yes.
our husbands will bring unity that we don't even
I
that
learned so much from that book, didn't you? I
yes.
yes, yes.
Yes, the power of a praying wife. And if we just pray for our husbands, I
Mhm.
mean, we lift him up. That's our first job
Right.
as an Ezra Kenegdo, as being the is to lift him up in prayer. We first have to surround him with such a
Mhm.
great a cloud of witnesses from the heavens
Right.
that no matter what he chooses to do, we are walking in
Mhm.
God's protection. We are walking in
Mhm.
God's provision because
Mhm.
he's already covered.
And he's known in the city gates because,
Mhm.
right, of his wife, and because they can see how prosperous he is. If you see a woman that's really content and happy, you know they have a great marriage. It's a credit to both.
At
It's
the
a
same
credit.
time, when the husband's not there, we can't expect our husbands to be what only God can be for us.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that woman can still have that that peace and that shalom that she brings into the home. Am I right?
Yes.
Just because she's getting from God what only God can give her, and we cannot use the excuse. And
Right.
I used to at one time do this, use the excuse that when our husbands fail us, that God has failed us,
Mm. Mm-mm.
because it's not true.
No, and our joy can't be from somebody else.
That's right. It
Mm-mm.
cannot be from it.
He
We
can't
can't.
we can't rely on somebody else to make us happy. We
That's right.
cannot. We can't. In I'm going to read Proverbs. This is chapter 3. He said, 33. He blesses the dwelling of the righteous. And that's what we all want. We want those blessings.
Where
The
does the
cur
righteous come from?
Yes,
Where does it
comes,
come from?
yes, from above.
It comes from above. It doesn't come from our husbands. So
No,
if he blesses the dwelling of the righteous, it's because we are new creations in him. Am I correct?
right,
Not
right.
because our husbands are a certain way or we are even a certain way. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was
Oh,
just
no. And, I wanna go back before, because there's probably soon that we have to stop right this time,
mhm.
but, I wanna go back to how powerful that is, as we are the bride, in that When Yeshua, he was pierced on the side and blood and water poured out. And when a child is born, what is there? There's blood, there's water. But as the bride and Chava, Eve, life was taken from his side. How beautiful is that? Look at the connection of the two. The bride, the woman, equal, equal. And unfortunately, we have so much misunderstanding in today's world. I remember years ago, I don't know if you ever, there was a movie or something called The Stepford Wives. They all looked the same, they all dressed the same, they all acted. And, it was like everybody had to be a little mold. And how sad is that? Because, we always say, what spice do you have? We can all have the same bread recipe, but it's going to come out a little different. Or we might put a little different spice on top than the next person.
Yeah,
So it's our own touch, the way we do our house. And so, but bless if you are married, say that blessing over your husband. Look in his eyes. We did Psalm 112. Blessed is the man who reveres Adonai, who greatly delights in his commandments. And wow, it was so powerful. And him doing the Proverbs 31, look into each other's eyes. How intimate. Sometimes people can't look directly into someone else's eyes. It's the windows of our soul. So what have we learned? We got to watch what this tongue says. And holding it inside and being resentful, like they say, how is that working for you if you're constantly finding fault and complaining? It doesn't change things. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. You told me you were going to do this. You didn't do this job. You didn't do this job. Sure. Pray. You said you were going to do this with me. Pray and sit down together, build up and say, how can we work this out? Because you do so good in this. Could you help me with this a little bit? Works so much better than yelling and complaining,
nagging,
nagging, the nagging drip.
the nagging drip. Yeah. So we as we're going to close this up because I know we're about at our time, but I'm going to take away from this right now that that I need to recognize my identity.
Right.
My identity is not that of a little smaller,
Mm-mm.
weaker,
Mm-mm.
subservient vessel. My
No.
job, my job is this warrior that builds a perimeter around our home, our children, our
Right.
family, that we stand guard
And keep evil out.
and keep evil out. So these people who say, "Oh, you're just protecting your kids too much, you're sheltering them too much," that's your job.
Mm-hmm.
That's our job.
Guess it is your job.
That is our job. That's not that for the enemy to tell us different is a lie.
Right.
We are to shelter them even as they go into adulthood, even as our husbands go out into the world, even as we pray for the companions for our children that they have not yet met,
Mm-hmm.
even as we pray for the companions that we, if we're single, have not yet met,
Right.
or or the companions of our loved ones,
Right.
that we are the warrior princess.
Exactly.
Take that picture away. I'd like for everybody to take that
Mm-hmm.
picture away today. This
Mm-hmm.
warrior princess on her knees in her
Mm-hmm.
full armor. I think we've seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that that is truly,
Mm-hmm.
we fight the battles on the spiritual realm so they won't have to be fought in the physical,
Right.
right?
You're right on.
Okay. I'm gonna I'm gonna go check my armor. I think it might
Good.
need polished
Do we
because
need, are we getting a little bit that we have to polish it up? We all need polishing, don't we?
we do need
We all
polishing.
polishing.
We do
Yeah.
need polishing. We do
Yeah.
need polishing. And I think that I'm really excited because I think that what is it in November? Are you going to be going to the conference there with
Yes.
Deb?
Oh, yes.
I'm so excited about that because that's broken women who've needed their armors polished for a while are
That's a
gonna
gr
go,
you know, we need to use that, polish your armor, don't we? And
yeah.
we're gonna come into, and as you're gonna help me, we're going to introduce some women that have never experienced maybe, an Erev Shabbat,
Hmm.
and we are going to be the light. Let our light shine.
Yes,
So we're gonna yes,
it's called Women of Merit, right? That we're
yes,
going to, and it's here in Norman, Oklahoma.
yes,
And if anybody is interested, I'm just going to put a shameless plug out there. Women of
yes,
Merit, which is
ministries.com.
Women of Merit Ministries.com. And
Very reasonable, and it's included with your food if you want. It's very, very reasonable,
yeah,
going to have great worship, and how
I want
wonderful
to.
is that when women get together and love on
Oh
each other?
man, I love it. I love it. And they're all coming, it's broken women coming together to get built up. And
Yes.
I hope that the ladies who are watching this right now will come and tell all these other ladies that's there about the fellowship that we have here
Yes,
and
at the
how, yeah, and we can just, because what do we need? We sometimes we as women, we just need to squeeze each other so hard
mhm,
that we piece all the broken pieces back together.
right,
And
right,
that's what we do here, right? And I love the fact that I can sit down with you and talk about how to be an Ezra Kenegdo and how to polish my armor and
mm,
how to be my identity in God and how to get what I need from him and not from my husband or my children or from
right,
other
right,
sources that only comes from him. You are
right.
such a blessing to me, Mom Miriam.
Oh, thank you. You are a blessing to me also. I am so proud of you, my daughter.
Oh, thank you. Well, ladies, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening if you're watching on the recording and if you're live. Um, this is our Ezra Kenegdo. I'll see you next week, right? I mean next month, right?
Yes,
All right.
shalom in the home.
Shalom in the home.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.